If you think mold is just an ugly spot on the wall, then brace yourself. These old grandma hacks are so insanely effective that you'll never reach for expensive chemical clubs again. But beware, one of these hacks is even more dangerous than you think, and I'll show you that one right away first. Subscribe to our channel before the mold does, and grab Grandma's best secret recipes against the Black Nightmare. Let's go. Shock ventilation like a pro. In the early morning, Grandma opens the window wide. The air streams in, cool and clear, and the whole room seems to awaken. The breath of the night escapes, the panes dry, the walls suddenly feel lighter. Grandma stands beside it, her hand still on the handle, and smiles contentedly. For her, it was never work, but part of the day, like brewing coffee or wiping the stove. A short moment that changes the whole house. 5 minutes, and the air is fresh, the head clear. The warmth remains. It smells like wood, like coziness, like a home that takes care of itself. Grandma knew, if you give the house air, it stays alive. And that's exactly what protects it from mold and tiredness. Clear steam away immediately. After showering, the mirror fogs up. Fine droplets run down the tiles. The air is warm, humid, and sluggish. Grandma knew what to do. A quick grab at the window, and the moisture drifts away like fog in the early morning. She took a towel, wiped over the wall, swept away the remnants as if she wanted to redeem the room. Afterward, everything smelled fresh, almost clear, as if the day had begun anew. 5 minutes were enough, and the walls stayed dry, the air light. That's how the bathroom remained a place where nothing could settle. This habit was no effort, but care. A small, daily act that kept the home healthy. Quite naturally, like breathing. Let furniture breathe. Grandma moved the heavy cabinet a bit away from the wall, as she did every spring. A dull scraping, a breath of dust. Then there was space for air and light. Behind large furniture, moisture collects if it doesn't feel movement. Cold walls, warm room air, a silent encounter that leaves water behind. Whoever gives the airspace protects the wall. A hand's width is enough, and the dampness finds no hold. Grandma knew that a house only stays healthy if it can breathe. She wiped over the wallpaper, checked the coldness, nodded, and left the window open. That's how the cabinet stayed dry, the scent of the wood pure, the room fresh. A small distance that preserved the home. Dry your bathroom daily. After showering, the scent of soap still lingered in the air, fine droplets sparkled on the tiles. Grandma grabbed the towel, wiped over the walls, over the glass, over the floor. Every movement had purpose. No water remained that could settle in joints or corners. Afterward, she opened the window, let the humid air out and the fresh in. It took barely 5 minutes, yet the bathroom stayed dry and clear. The mirror no longer fogged. The joints stayed light. This daily care made the room alive, kept it healthy. Whoever removes the water takes the power from the mold. A simple rhythm that protects an entire home. Don't dry laundry indoors. The damp laundry hung in the yard, moved by the wind that played between the cloths. Grandma checked the clips, smoothed out a shirt, saw how the water in it disappeared. In the house, she didn't like humid air. She knew how quickly it settles on windows and walls. When rain came, she placed the rack by the open window. Let the air circulate until everything was dry. Every piece of clothing then smelled of clarity and order. Laundry that dries outside carries the freshness of the day in it. Indoors, however, the water stays, seeks paths no one wants. Grandma trusted the wind that carries everything away. A dry room was always a sign of care and peace for her. Check joints regularly. Grandma bent over the bathtub, checked the joints with a practiced eye. A tiny crack, a dark line. She saw immediately if moisture was seeking away. Then she grabbed the cloth, wiped over the spot, dried it off as if she wanted to preserve the room. Clean joints were no detail for her, but protection. Where the silicone stayed tight, mold had no chance. She knew every corner, every line of her house. Once a month, she went through the bathroom, checked if everything stayed firm and light. It was a quiet order she maintained, almost naturally. A house thanks you when you look. Whoever cares for the joints holds together the foundation of cleanliness. Use alcohol against mold. Grandma took the bottle of alcohol from the cabinet, checked the smell, and soaked a cloth with it. Then she wiped over the spot on the wall, calmly and determined. The smell burned briefly in the nose, but afterward the room smelled of cleanliness and order. Alcohol kills mold spores and evaporates before new moisture remains. On tiles, glass, or varnished wood, it works reliably. Grandma opened the window, let the air flow through, and waited until everything was dry. She knew that you can't cover mold, but must remove it thoroughly. A clear wipe, an open window, an attentive glance. That's all she needed. That's how the wall stayed clean, the house protected, the air pure. Hydrogen peroxide as a helper. On the bathroom edge stood the small bottle, clear and unassuming. Grandma called it her strong water. A splash on the cloth, a firm wipe over the dark joint, and the hissing announced that something was happening here. Hydrogen peroxide destroys mold spores and bleaches discolorations without leaving residues. Grandma let it soak briefly, wiped with clean water afterward, and opened the window. The air smelled fresh, almost cool. The tiles shone. It was as if the bathroom was breathing a sigh of relief. A simple remedy, powerful and reliable. Whoever works with it keeps walls and joints free of mold. A clear eye, a steady hand, a bit of patience. That's all it takes to preserve a clean home. Use baking soda and baking powder. Grandma reached for the small can of baking soda, sprinkled the fine powder over the damp joints, and wiped over it with a calm hand. The white powder foamed lightly, absorbed the moisture, and made the surface appear brighter. Baking soda acts mildly alkaline and changes the environment in which mold grows. It cleans, binds odors, and ensures surfaces stay dry. A simple spoonful of it is enough to keep small spots clean. Grandma let it soak briefly, wiped afterward, and dried everything carefully. The smell was neutral, the air clear. This powder was no kitchen product for her, but a quiet helper in everyday life. And every time, the bathroom shone as if it had drunk fresh air. Use tea tree oil against mold. The scent of tea tree oil spreads, strong and fresh like after a summer rain. A few drops in water are enough to weaken mold spores and protect surfaces. The oil lays finely over the spots where moisture wants to cling and leaves nothing but clean clarity. Its natural power keeps walls and joints clean, without residues, without sharpness. Grandma appreciated this scent. It reminded her of fresh forests and open windows. She wiped carefully over the frames, let the wind in, and the smell drift out. Afterward, the room seemed washed, calm, and light. Tea tree oil combines cleaning and care, a simple remedy that keeps the home alive and healthy. Use vinegar with caution. The vinegar smell hung in the air, sharp and clear. Grandma soaked a cloth, wiped over the tiles, and saw how the dark spots disappeared. Vinegar dissolves mold spores on smooth surfaces, cleans thoroughly, and disinfects at the same time. On tiles, glass, or plastic, it works reliably. On plaster or lime walls, however, it loses its power. Grandma knew the difference. She used it only where it really helped. After cleaning, she wiped with water afterward and opened the window. The smell dissipated, leaving a clean surface, light and dry. Vinegar was no fragrance for her, but a tool. Whoever uses it with caution keeps their walls healthy and preserves what should stay clean. Keep an eye on humidity. On the windowsill stood the small measuring device. The pointer moved slowly. Grandma looked at it as if reading the weather of the house. The air was more than just what you breathe for her. She knew when it became too humid and when too dry. Between 40 and 60%, that was her measure. If the value rose, she opened the window, briefly and decisively. That's how she kept the rooms in balance. Mold needs moisture to grow, but dry air harms too. Whoever observes the air recognizes when the house needs help. Grandma understood that without many words. Her attention kept the walls healthy and the home light and alive. Keep temperature constant. In winter, the stove glowed. The warmth spread through the rooms, evenly and calmly. Grandma made sure no corner cooled off. She knew that cold attracts water and pushes moisture into the walls. A constant temperature kept the house in balance. When she ventilated, she closed the windows after a few minutes and turned up the heat slightly. That's how the air dried without the warmth being lost. Cold walls stay damp, warm ones breathe. She felt that when she ran her hand over the plaster. Even warmth is no luxury, but protection. Whoever heats the house evenly protects it from mold and gives it stability, like a heartbeat that never quite comes to rest. Observe window frames and corners. Grandma started her morning at the window. She took the cloth, wiped away the droplets that had collected overnight. Then she checked the joints, the corners, the cold spots on the wall. There, she said, moisture dwells first. When warm air meets cold surfaces, condensation forms, and from that, mold grows. Whoever removes the droplets before they collect protects their house. Grandma opened the window briefly, let the air circulate, and closed it again before the walls cooled. This small attention kept the rooms dry. No effort, just habit. Her precision was what kept the house healthy. A glance, a grip, and the balance remained. Keep air in motion. Grandma opened the doors. The wind pulled through the rooms and lifted the curtain lightly. She liked it when the air wandered. Movement kept the house awake. Where air stands still, moisture collects, and where moisture stays, mold grows. A draft distributes warmth, takes wetness with it, and brings freshness back. Even behind cabinets and in corners, the air needs space. Grandma knew that and positioned furniture so they could breathe. Sometimes she opened the opposite window to feel the through draft. Afterward, the room felt lighter, almost new. Air that moves keeps the home healthy. It was natural for her to keep the breath of the house going every day. Place plants properly. The plants stood at the window. Their leaves shone in the light. The soil was lightly moist, the scent fresh. Too much water would have made them heavy, too little brittle. The balance kept the room in equilibrium. Moisture rises from the soil, spreads in the air, and can collect on cold walls. Therefore, give the plants space to breathe, some distance from the wall, so no dampness builds up. Grandma checked that with a sure eye. A quick grip into the soil, a small pour of water, never more than necessary. Her flowers grew strong, the air stayed clear. Whoever cares for plants with measure gives their home peace, life, and healthy freshness. Renew old wallpapers. Timely. The wallpaper peeled at a corner, the paste crumbled, the color looked tired. Moisture had sought its way over the years. Whoever lets it crawl into the wall settles and stays. Old wallpapers hold moisture. They store what should long be gone. Therefore, it's wise to renew them timely. Fresh air, dry walls, new paper, that keeps the house healthy. Grandma recognized such spots immediately. With a glance, she knew where the wall had to work. She removed what was old, let it dry, and applied new. Afterward, the room smelled of lime, of cleanliness, of beginning. A wall thanks you when you change its skin now and then. Use mineral paints instead of dispersion paint. The paint in the bucket was light like chalk. Grandma stirred it with a wooden stick, patiently, until it was smooth and heavy. She called it lime paint, her familiar remedy against moisture and mold. When she painted the wall with it, you saw how it absorbed the light, matte and calm. Lime is alkaline. It repels mold spores and lets moisture escape. That's how the wall stays dry and the room climate balanced. Grandma applied the paint in thin layers, let it breathe before the next followed. After painting, the room smelled fresh, almost like outside. Mineral paint is no decoration, it is protection. A wall that can breathe stays healthy, and the house with it. Use salt against moisture. Grandma placed a bowl with coarse salt on the windowsill. The grains sparkled in the light as if they knew what to do. Salt draws moisture from the air and holds it. When it clumps, the air is too humid, and the salt has done its work. Then it's replaced, fresh and dry, ready for the next service. That's how the air stayed pure and the walls dry. Grandma checked the bowls in passing, brushed her hand over the grains, felt their hardness. The salt was her early warning system against dampness. It showed when the house was breathing and when not. A simple remedy, reliable, unassuming, and yet indispensable for a healthy home. Clean cabinet backs regularly. Grandma got the broom, moved the cabinet forward, and saw what had collected behind it. Dust, crumbs, fine spiderwebs, all that a room loses over time. She wiped the back wall with a damp cloth carefully into the corners. Then she dried with a fresh rag until the surface was clean and smooth. While cleaning, she looked closely to see if moisture was on the wall or dark spots showed. That's how she kept the walls dry and the wood healthy. Cleaning was control, care, and protection all at once for her. When the cabinet was back in place, it smelled of work and clarity. A clean room breathes differently, deeper, calmer. Air out mattresses regularly. The window stood wide open. The morning sun fell on the unmade bed. The air was fresh, cool, and clear. The mattress stood half upright, letting the warmth of the night escape. Moisture collects in it, a little more each night. Whoever airs it gives it space to recover. Grandma knew that. She opened the blanket, shook out the pillows, and propped the mattress against the wall. In summer, she carried it outside, let the wind flow through and the sun work. Afterward, the sleeping place smelled of freshness, of peace, of order. A well-aired mattress stays dry, clean, and healthy. It's the simplest care one can give a home. Keep an eye on condensation. The sun fell on the glass, and at the lower edge, moisture collected. Small droplets that slowly slid down and left traces. Grandma saw them immediately. She took the cloth, pulled it once over the frame, then over the wood. Condensation is more than just water. It shows that the air is too humid. If it stays, the dampness pulls into joints and seals, and their mold begins to grow. Grandma left the window open briefly. The fresh air dried what was left. That's how she kept everything in balance. A hand movement, a moment of attention. Dampness that you see can be controlled. Whoever looks and wipes before it stays preserves their home from damage. Use moisture absorbers strategically. In the pantry stood a bowl with fine crystals. They glittered in the dim light, quiet and reliable. The granules drew the moisture from the air. Droplets collected in the container below. That's how the air stayed dry and the walls breathed freely. Grandma checked regularly if water had formed, poured it out, and refilled new crystals. She knew that humid air makes things sluggish and slowly changes furniture, walls, fabrics. A simple container was enough to prevent that. Moisture absorbers are small helpers, unassuming but effective. Whoever checks them regularly keeps rooms fresh, even where ventilation is rare. Grandma trusted them, as one trusts something reliable, patiently, attentively, with an eye for the whole. Ventilate basement and attic regularly. Grandma opened the basement door early in the morning. The air was cool and dry. She opened the windows, let the haze of the night escape. Later, she climbed to the attic, pushed open the small window, and breathed out the warm air that had collected there. Basement and attic need movement. Otherwise, moisture clings to the walls. A short draft is enough to relieve the masonry. Whoever ventilates regularly protects wood, boxes, and memories from mold. Grandma knew exactly when the outside air was dry enough. She listened to the house, to the creaking of the beams, to the smell of the stones. A well-ventilated basement is no longer a basement. It becomes part of the living space. Clean and inspect, thoroughly, regularly. Grandma went through the house with bucket and cloth, step by step, without haste. She wiped over window frames, checked corners, saw if the walls stayed dry. While cleaning, she didn't just look for dust. She observed the house. Damp spots betray themselves by smell or a light shadow, and whoever recognizes them early prevents mold. Clean surfaces dry faster, air circulates better, the climate stays balanced. Grandma knew that cleaning is care, not duty. A house needs attention, like a garden needs care. Every hand movement kept the balance. In the end, the room smelled of soap and air, the work was done, and everything seemed light. Cleanliness preserves what exists and lets it breathe. Keep textiles and carpets dry. Under the carpet, dust collected, sometimes moisture too. Grandma knew that. She lifted it regularly, wiped the floor underneath, and let air flow. Fabrics hold water longer than one thinks, especially in corners where there's little movement. Carpets, curtains, blankets, they absorb moisture from the air and release it only hesitantly. Whoever cares for them protects their home. Grandma beat her carpets outside, let them hang in the sun until they were dry and light. Curtains got fresh air too when the wind was favorable. Dry fabrics smell of order and purity. Whoever gives them space and light keeps the air free and preserves the warmth they give. Clean and keep radiators clear regularly. Grandma bent over the heater, took the brush, and went between the fins. The dust swirled up, gray and fine like ash. Afterward, she wiped the surfaces with a damp cloth until the metal shone again. Clean radiators give off warmth evenly, and the air can circulate freely. If dust collects or furniture stands in front, moisture builds up in the room. Grandma knew that. Before every winter, she checked every radiator, laid her hand on the grid, and felt if the warmth flowed freely. That's how the house stayed dry and evenly tempered. Warmth needs space to work. Whoever cares for their radiators cares for the air around them and protects their home. Turn on the exhaust hood. While cooking, steam rises, heavy with scent and full of moisture. It settles on walls, cabinets, and ceilings if it finds no way outside. A strong kitchen exhaust keeps the air moving. It pulls the vapor away before it settles and carries dampness into every crevice. Fat and water vapor mix into a film that favors mold if it stays. Grandma knew that. She ventilated after cooking, wiped the stove edge, and let the warmth dissipate. Today, an exhaust hood ensures the air stays pure, but only if it's cleaned regularly. Clean filters keep air paths free. That's how the kitchen stays clear. Fresh air is the best cooking helper. Insulate drain pipes against condensation. In the basement, the pipe gleamed and fine droplets ran down it. They collected, fell silently to the floor, left dark spots. Condensation forms when warm air meets cold metal. The moisture precipitates unobtrusively but steadily. Whoever insulates their pipes prevents exactly that. A cover of firm foam keeps the surface warm and dry. That's how the water stays where it belongs, in the pipe. Grandma checked her pipes regularly, ran her hand over them, felt if they were damp. If so, she had them wrapped immediately. It was simple work, but it preserved walls, floors, and furniture from damage. Protection starts where one rarely suspects it, at a pipe in the basement. Keep gutters and downspouts clear. Rain rushed from the roof, pelted the gutter, ran down in a fine stream. If the water flows cleanly away, the house stays dry. But if leaves collect, it backs up, overflows, seeks new paths. Then it seeps into plaster and masonry, slowly but surely. Grandma knew how to prevent that. After a rain shower, she sent Grandpa up the ladder to remove leaves and branches. Below, she handed him the bucket, watched as the water flowed freely again. On the ground, she laid gravel so splash water could seep in. That's how the wall stayed light, the foundation firm. Whoever cares for the gutter protects more than just the roof. A house thanks with dryness when you respect it. When you hear all that, you feel how much knowledge lay in Grandma's hands. No textbook, no plan, just experience, attention, and love for detail. She saw what others overlooked and preserved her home with it day by day. These small habits are more than work. They are care that lasts. So next time you open a window, check a wall, or move the air, think of Grandma. Her eye for the essential has kept generations of homes dry. Subscribe to our channel if you value such stories and practical knowledge. That way, you won't miss an episode, and your home stays as strong as Grandma's hands.